Welcome to this holy time, this shelter for our hearts and our hopes, a sanctuary for our deepest longings. Here may we find rest and repair, connection and comfort. Here may we find our center, our breath, our voice, and the strength to go out into the world and be a shelter for others. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the UU Church of Berkeley. My name is Melissa Rosales. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the worship associate for this service. This is a welcoming congregation, and we are always working on how to better welcome and care for one another. Whoever you are, we welcome you in the fullness of who you are. Please take a moment to prepare yourself and your space for our time together. Grab a candle and a way to light it so you can join in the chalice lighting at home. Now, whether you are lighting a candle or the inner chalice in your heart, let us kindle our flames with the words of Beatrice Hitchcock. The flaming chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. It is an everlasting flame for this community. It offers its warmth to those who are cold. It provides light to those who would see. It purifies and transforms this sanctuary into sacred space, this congregation into sacred community. May its flame burn true and high and strong.
Today is the third Sunday in Advent, the season in the Christian calendar that begins the fourth Sunday before Christmas and ends on Christmas Eve. Advent means waiting, and traditionally Advent is a season of preparation and anticipation as Christians wait for the birth of Christ. As Unitarian Universalists, Advent asks, what are we waiting for and preparing for in our own lives and in the life of our world? In this season of long nights, Advent invites us to explore the themes of hope, peace, joy, and love. On this third Sunday of Advent, we light a candle for joy. What joys are energizing your journey? What joys are energizing you? May the light of this candle and of this Advent wreath help us to bring more joy into the world. These are also the days of the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah. Sunset last night marked the third night of Hanukkah. Let us share in this tradition as Lenore Ralston lights her Hanukkah menorah with us.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav yitzivanu adlek ner shel Hanukkah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of all, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the Hanukkah lights. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa nisim lavotenu beyamim ha'im bazman hazed. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of all, who performed wondrous deeds for our ancestors in days of old at this season.
Now please join us in singing our opening song, Dark of Winter. The words will be on screen.
Dark of winter, soft and still, your quiet calm surrounds me. Let my thoughts go where they will, ease my mind profoundly, and then my soul will sing a song, a blessed song of love eternal. Gentle darkness, soft and still, bring your quiet to me. When my soul may hear a voice, a still small voice of love eternal, darkness when my fears arise, let your peace flow through me.
Please join with me in saying our covenant. Love guides this church. The quest for truth and justice is its common purpose. To give thanks, listen deeply, speak with care, honor our differences, and seek and grant forgiveness. These things we covenant with one another.
Good morning, everyone. I am the Reverend Catherine Boyle, and I am the Director of Family Ministry here at UUCB. My pronouns are she, hers, hers, and boy, do we have a special story, a special time for all ages today, because we are in the midst of a wonderful holiday, and that is Hanukkah. Now, Hanukkah is an 8-day celebration, and I'm going to tell you the story of Hanukkah, and this comes from my friend, the Reverend Lynn Cox. So we're going to learn what Hanukkah is, who celebrates it, and what can we learn from it. So the word Hanukkah, it is Hebrew for dedication, the holy rededication of the Jewish temple in Jerusalem in the middle of a war, a great war between the Jews and a Greek king. Now, I don't know if the story happened exactly this way, but this is kind of what I believe is true. Once upon a time, the Jewish people in the land of Israel had a holy temple. Now, they made pilgrimages to this temple several times a year, And even for people who lived many, many days away from the temple, because this was olden times before cars and stuff, they still viewed the temple as sort of the heart of their religious and civic and whole lives. So just as we like to come to the church with our family and friends and see people, so did the Jewish people. Now, it was not unusual for an empire like this Greek king to rule over Israel in this time, making them part of an international government. But usually, these kings who would rule would leave the religion alone, but not this king. So unlike previous kings and emperors and rulers and people who had taken over Judea, the king sought to completely assimilate the Jews. And what that means is he wanted to make the Jews exactly like him. He wanted all of the empire, no matter if they were Jewish or Greek or wherever they were from in this giant empire, to worship the same gods, to eat and drink the same food, and to raise their kids in the exact same way. Now, in an effort to destroy the Jewish religion, the Jewish life, the Jewish way of life, his troops went into the temple and they vandalized it. They poured out all the sacred lamp oil they could find onto the floor. They smeared dirt and mud all over the walls, and they even released pigs to run through the temple. Now, according to a priest named Mashiach, he led the Jews into the hills to mount a rebellion, to fight back. So his son took over the leadership of the fighting, and his name was Judea Maccabee. This is what the fighting was called, the hammer of the Jewish people. Now, the Maccabees, they threw rocks from hidden points, they conducted midnight raids for supplies, and they wore out the enemy by running them around through the hills and dales. Now, after 2 years of this, it might have been the year 3594 or 3622 on the Hebrew calendar, or 168 BCE in our society. Now this was a turning point for the Jewish people. So on the 25th of the month of Kislev, the Jewish people reclaimed the temple. They found their spiritual home, the heart of their community, a complete mess. The dirt was still on the walls, the pigs were everywhere, pigs poop a lot. So they cleaned up the filth. They removed all the overgrown weed. They drove out all those pigs and any other animals that may be hiding out, and they built a new altar. The 7 branches menorah was still there. So the menorah is the candle, as you see. Now, we saw the menorah at the beginning of our service today. So that menorah was still there, but it was not lit. And according to the Jewish faith, it was supposed to be lit at all times. It was supposed to be an internal beacon. People from all over the world, all over the country, were returning to Jerusalem in excitement to see the menorah rekindled again. So in the rubble, the temple team searched, and they found one single vial, one little bottle of oil with the seal of the priest still intact. This oil was enough to last for just one day, but nevertheless, the priest lit the menorah and declared the beginning of an 8-day festival to give thanks to the return of the temple. 8 days matched the length of the harvest of Sukkot, the festival that they had just missed by fighting in the mountains earlier. The famous miracle of Hanukkah comes to this, is that there was that one vial, one bottle of oil, and it lasted throughout the whole 8-day festival. The priest declared from that time forward that there will be an annual 8-day festival of light beginning on the 25th of Kislev. And that is how Hanukkah began. The end. Except it wasn't the end. The rededication of the temple happened in the middle of a war. The Jews had reclaimed Jerusalem for that moment, but there was no guarantees that they would hold on to it. Now they had a city to defend once again, and the tactical advantages of hiding in the trees and running around, that guerrilla warfare, that was no longer helpful. Their victory for this war was several years away. The extremely energy efficient oil that fueled that menorah for over a week was a pretty neat little miracle, but I don't want to overlook the true miracle. What is the true miracle here? It is the miracle of the people who rededicated their sacred space and their lives despite the odd. Hanukkah means dedication. And we can learn from the story about sticking to something even when it's difficult. We can learn about rededicating ourselves, renewing our commitments, even after a setback or a disaster. And we can learn about making time for spiritual life and celebration, even when we know there's more work to be done. I invite all of my friends now, all of my little Maccabees, to join me in RE today at 12:15. We're going to have religious education classes and do some fun Hanukkah activities as well. So please join me. The link is in the family ministry email, or email me at family.ministry@uucb.org for access. Now I invite everyone to join me in singing the next hymn, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom.
We now enter the time in our service that we make for our hearts and our spirits, for our cares and concerns for one another. We lift up and hold the joys and sorrows and cares and concerns and the challenges we may each be facing. During this month of holiday times in particular, there is a lot that may be emerging for folks. Both many of the things that they carry and remember oftentimes during holiday seasons, as well as carrying the weight and challenges of so much that has changed this year due to the pandemic. During our time of silence, I invite you to share any joys or sorrows or significant milestones of your own in the comments. I invite us all to hold these cares in the compassionate embrace of this loving community. Let us turn inward now. Feel the rhythm of your breath as it goes in and out, in and out. Find the peace of just being with the flow of your breath, letting go of yesterday and tomorrow, finding the restorative power of the peace in this moment. A peace large enough to open to the concerns and sorrows that trouble us. A stillness, quiet enough to respond to the joys and celebrations that enliven us. There is safety here in the rhythm of our breath. The ebb and flow of life is enacted with each and every one. Taking in our oxygen sustenance, letting go of carbon dioxide and our exhales. Taking in the fullness of experience, letting go of that which may want to cling to us. Cultivate inner peace and inner safety in this sanctuary within each and every one of us, dedicated to cultivating the spirit of life, dedicated to being a beacon of love, an example of love for all beings. Let us now join in singing Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our reading today is titled An Island of Peace by Howard Thurman. An island of peace within one's own soul. The individual lives their life in the midst of a wide variety of stresses and strains. There are many tasks in which they are engaged that are not meaningful, even though they are important in secondary ways. There are many responsibilities that are theirs by virtue of training or family or position. Again and again, decisions must be made as to small and large matters. Each one involves them in devious ways. No one is ever free from the peculiar pressures of their own life. Each one has to deal with the evil aspects of life, with injustices inflicted upon them and injustices which they wittingly or unwittingly inflict upon others. We are all of us deeply involved in the throes of our own weaknesses and strengths, expressed often in the profoundest conflicts within our own souls. The only hope, the only possibility of stability for the person is to establish an island of peace within one's own soul. Here, one brings for review the purposes and dreams to which one's life is tied. This is the place where there is no pretense, no dishonesty, no adulteration. What passes over the threshold is pure. What one really thinks and feels about one's own life stands revealed. What one really thinks and feels about other people, far and near, is seen with every nuance honestly labeled. Love is love, hate is hate, fear is fear. Well within the island is the temple where God dwells, not the God of the creed, the church, the family, but the God of one's own heart. Into this presence one comes with all of one's problems, what one is, what one's plans are, what one's authentic self is, where one's life goes. All is available in the presence of the divine in this island of peace. How foolish it is, how terrible, if you have not found your island of peace within your own soul. It means that you are living without the discovery of your true home.
Sanctuary is a word that comes up in a fair number of contexts. It's a word with a variety of different meanings, and some of us have different histories with the word as well. There are two different main meanings. One is a reference to a physical sanctuary, like the ones associated with religious institutions. The grand version of this kind of sanctuary is a cathedral, of course, with its towering exterior and spacious worship area and usually vast stained glass windows. Okay, sometimes gargoyles too. The other kind of sanctuary is more abstract, a place of refuge or safety. Sometimes this is a literal sanctuary, like a bird sanctuary or a butterfly sanctuary. Or it can be a place where one feels this kind of safety and refuge, one's safe harbor or retreat. And then, of course, there's the combination of both of these concepts that we find in the sanctuary movements and in churches offering sanctuary to folks like those in danger of deportation. And with the specifically religious meaning for the word sanctuary, many folks bring histories with the word from their own pasts, particularly from negative experiences, since those tend to hold on a bit more. If that's the case for you, I hope that you can work with the abstract meaning of the word sanctuary, or even just substitute the words place of peace for sanctuary. Because it is a powerful concept, and one I think we need more now than ever. A sanctuary, an island of peace within one's soul, a place of refuge, a quiet center within ourselves that we can retreat into, that stays with us wherever we go, an inner sanctuary. Finding it is like finding our true home. There's a lot going on that challenges our sense of peace and sanctuary. I feel like it's almost cliche to say that at this point. From conflict and injustice that we can see, to the microbes and viruses that we can't, to terror incidents both in the States and abroad that are still happening. Whether we are watching or reading the news, or avoiding it or taking a break from it, there is still much around us that challenges every bit of peace and sanctuary that we have. Then there are the challenges that happen in our personal lives as well. Moving, health events of some sort, worries about COVID and other illnesses, family happenings. Even scheduled surgeries or scheduled treatment. Personal uncertainty combined with uncertainty about where our country and world are headed, combined with health uncertainty on a personal scale as well as a larger scale. All of these can certainly be unsettling for our own sense of peace. With all of these things that can be unsettling, we can counteract that unsettlement by creating sanctuary around and within ourselves, creating our own pockets of peace and refuge, so that perhaps we can find the grounding and the stability to make it through what we're facing, even if that's just find it and make it through today. We'll worry about tomorrow when it gets here. For starters, we can create sanctuary and refuge all around us. And finding places and things and ways to do that. I remember as I was growing up and how, at least in my head, I was literally doing this. I grew up with a lot of fears of nighttime and the dark. It wasn't just the monsters are like in the closet or under the bed. That would at least compartmentalize them. It was everywhere. And if you're doing it, stop analyzing me. This is actually just normal kid stuff. I remember once when I needed to go into my parents' room in the middle of the night for something. I don't know what. One of my siblings was awake or upset or something like this. And I saw this vertical-ish shape in the dark on the floor. I was instantly convinced it was a cobra reared up and ready to strike, and spent what felt like forever getting the courage to dart through the room to my parents, who of course had a safe bubble around them. It was a boot, by the way. I spent all that time worrying about a boot. Anyways, under my covers was my safe place. I was safe there from anything in the dark that might be trying to get me, even if it was a pack of wolves that for some reason was wandering around my bedroom. The covers were my shield. And even now, I have a comforting cocooned feeling when I'm curled up under some thick fuzzy blankets. What are some of the ways that you find or create a sanctuary or refuge within you? What are some of your places with walls that keep hate out and love in? What is the place of stillness that is right within your own very core? There are all sorts of things that we might call this place of peace inside of ourselves. In the reading earlier, Dr. Howard Thurman called it an island of peace within one's soul, and talked about it both like a place of spiritual refuge, but also where one couldn't help but be honest and authentic. He went so far as to call it one's true home. I remember a guided meditation I participated in many years ago that sticks with me to this day. In the meditation, we were led to identify and visit our own internal place of power, to visualize exactly what it was, what it looked like, what it felt like, smelled like, sounded like, so we could revisit it. And the reflection afterwards, I found that we'd each found a place that looked and felt different, something that was unique to us. My own was a cottage set deep in the woods, with thick stone walls, white lacy curtains, and a cool, calming feel to it. Sunlight streamed through the windows, through those lacy curtains, and you could hear water running nearby. Well, that's mostly a visual and sensual description. It was a deeply emotional place, one that I can still see and feel vividly. I still visit whenever I need to return to that place of peace and security. There are a lot of different ways that folks can go about finding or creating this sense of peace and stillness within. A couple of the more common ways are prayer and meditation, particularly the aspects of both, where we quiet ourselves and the voices and thoughts that run around inside each of us. Now, of course, that's often easier said than done, especially when there is more than enough that we might be worried about or obsessing over. How many folks out there are as good at worrying as I am? I'm guessing plenty of us. When I first started meditating, the emptying of my mind from all of those thoughts and worries running around was one of the most difficult things. Okay, the other of the most difficult was the assumption that the only way to do it right was to put my legs in the most uncomfortable of positions. Didn't go so well. One of the meditation teachers that I learned from talked about the mind like the sky, with the thoughts that were floating by as clouds. And like the clouds on a day with at least a little bit of moving air, or the clouds on the scrolling screen of a video game, to allow ourselves to notice this cloud as it floats by, but not to hold on to it, to just let it float. Since you can't hold on to a cloud, after all. Well, that pretty blue sky with puffy white clouds floating by, I don't know if I ever achieved that in my sitting meditation practice. I kind of found instead lots of cloudy days with occasional thunderstorms and, okay, the occasional tornado as well. But I admit, there is clear blue sky I can see through the windows of my stone cottage. So perhaps the metaphor does hold in some ways for me. Times that we can quiet ourselves, however that may look, and turn deeply inward. Then perhaps we can find that place of refuge. It is so important to have that place within us where we can stabilize ourselves, where we can find ourselves. Like Dr. Thurman, you may call that place inside yourself a place where you can talk to God or gods or goddess, however you envision God to be. You might say that your divine spark is there, or the core of your energy, or your connection with the universe. Now, for this inner sanctuary, a favorite fiction character of mine has a particular version of this that is rather captivating. I love this particular character for his complexity, how we get to know him through the different stories and the twists and turns in his development through the story. The character, since you're probably wondering by now, is Hannibal Lecter. Now, okay, aside from going into the content of the story, stick with me on the character. His memory is rather astonishing. And one of his means for remembering things is also his place of refuge. And this is a real thing, not just fiction. What it is Hannibal has an elaborate memory palace. This is a technique for remembering things by putting representations for them together in a visual image for yourself. And what Hannibal did is he put these visual images into this cathedral-sized museum setting. And in the story, talks about how he retreats there in his mind when he needs to escape from what's around him. It is a sanctuary and an island of peace for him. We all need our inner sanctuaries, our inner islands of peace. Places where we can let go of the bad stuff that's eating at us and fill ourselves with peace and love instead, whether under literal fuzzy blankets or inside mental cathedrals. This is a key thing we need for resilience. And if there's anything our crazy world needs right now, it is resilient folks who are able to deal with it and challenge what needs to be challenged. So aside from the metaphors we've talked about, there are two additional tools that I'd like to suggest today for helping you to touch that inner sanctuary. One is reminders of that place. When you reach into yourself and touch that place, when you find it, remember how it is that you found it. Were there feelings or textures or images or sounds that helped to get you there? Take a breath for a moment and feel through those. I heard a story about a taxi driver who kept a picture of a gorgeous beach scene hidden above his sun visor and looked at it whenever he needed that moment of peace. That was his place of peace. So what helps you to get there? The other tool is the things that we carry literally in our hearts, the things we know by memory. Maybe these are quotes, maybe they're phrases from a favorite poem, maybe they're music that we know by heart. Songs like this can rattle around in me for hours or even days. And that often happens, especially when I need what that song is trying to tell me, what I need, what it's trying to remind me of. inner music that brings us what we need when we need it. During this time of further lockdown, when it feels like once again we are all paused and many of the usual happenings in our lives and of the holiday season are on hold, that doesn't necessarily mean things are still or peaceful for us. There is still a lot that may be running around within us, many unexpected things that may be popping up. Having our places of peace and stillness, having our touchstones of peace and strength can be all the more crucial. So I ask, what is it that helps you find your own place of peace, your inner sanctuary? Let's share some of these things with one another. For you, is it meditation, prayer, a particular kind of music? What does your island of peace look like? What gets you there? I invite you to share these in the comments section as well as in our conversations in this upcoming week. May we be able to find and hold the peace and stillness that we need in the weeks that lie ahead for us. Blessed be.
As always, UUCB needs your gifts and support as we continue to make ours a vibrant and loving community, inspiring spiritual growth and justice and lives of integrity and service. We also hope you'll continue to practice generosity, especially with our good neighbor organizations. This month, we're sharing half of our offerings with the Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity to support the good work they do in our community. The Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity defends the humanity of the immigrant and fights for the rights of the incarcerated. Working at the intersection of spirituality and social movements, they mobilize congregations to take a stand on issues of social justice, like immigration and mass incarceration. And they engage people of faith to develop their own leadership so they can stand up against racism, discrimination, and the political challenges of the day. Offerings of any value are received with gratitude. More details on how to give electronically will appear on your screen as our offertory begins. Thank you for your generosity.
Ubi caritas et amor, ubi caritas Deus ibi est, ubi caritas et amor. Deus ibi est.
Please join me in dedicating our offering. We dedicate our offering and ourselves to the mission of this congregation, to create loving community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service. It's been good to be together in praise and song today, even virtually. Before we shift to our virtual coffee hour on Zoom, I'd like to encourage you to stay informed about and involved in all that's going on in our congregation by exploring our website, uucb.org. Among other things, you can find a link in News to the Week Ahead, our weekly email newsletter, which contains a great list of upcoming activities. As we prepare to leave the worship service, here are a few important announcements. Next Sunday, December 20th at 9:20 a.m., join Personal Theology as we welcome back one of our favorite speakers, Rabbi Manhoff. He is Rabbi Emeritus at Temple Beth Shalom in San Leandro and teaches part-time at St. Mary's College. He will speak on studying the Talmud one page every day. See the Week Ahead newsletter or the UUCB website for the Zoom link. UUCB is collecting your favorite recipes to be compiled into a UUCB holiday recipe ebook, which can be printed. The deadline to send in recipes is this Wednesday, December 16th, and the email to send is uucbrecipes@gmail.com. And finally, join us next Sunday, December 20th at 4 p.m. for the Messiah Sing-Along. This has been an annual tradition for over 50 years, and this year it continues over Zoom. See our website, uucb.org, for more details and the Zoom link. Now please join in singing our closing song, How Sweet the Darkness. The words will be on screen.
When windows that are black and cold are lit anew with fires of gold, when dusk in quiet shall descend, and darkness come once more our friend, when wings pursue them from the flight, and bring not terror but delight, when clouds are innocent again, and light no storms of deadly rain, and when the sky is swept of wars, and keeps but gentle moon and stars, that peaceful sky, that harmless air, how sweet the darkness there.
In the words of Starhawk, we are all longing to go home to some place we have never been, a place half remembered and half envisioned that we can only catch glimpses of from time to time. Community. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere a circle of hands will open up to receive us, eyes will light up as we enter, Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength. It means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter. A circle of healing, a circle of friends, some place where we can truly be free. May we find those places around us and within us when we need them. And remember, you are never all alone. Blessed be.